Bajrang Dal, and most recently this group that committed perhaps the blast in Maligaon, a town northeast of Mumbai, in 2006. The group is called Abhinav Bharat. So these groups all across the country have been committing atrocities mainly against Muslim populations, but not only, also against Christians, also against people who in India are known as tribals and others. So there's been this growth of the kind of Hindu politics in a way because the state has been incapable of providing an agenda for the social development, the complete development of the Indian population. And of course, in reaction to this, you've seen the growth of a Muslim politics of resentment and anger. One of the groups that was formed in the 1970s was known as SIMI, the Student Islamic Movement of India. At that time, inspired by the Iranian Revolution, by the Islamic Revolution. But later, the resentment grows, and many groups then will come out of there. Young people seeing no future, turning to hatred and bitterness. And what I find is, for them, the politics of the present isn't often future-looking, it's backward-looking. They look to the past, to resentment, to revenge, to rage, and there are Hindu forms of terror that have developed, which are being met by groups that are, Muslim forms, etc. And this is a soup that is very, very dangerous. And now, of course, the Hindu forms of terror have a political party, which is the one that is breathing fire into the ear of the current government, saying, we need a forward policy against Pakistan. So, one mustn't narrow this down to the Mumbai event currently, but broaden the focus and see how there's been this sociological shift from a politics of, you might consider, social democracy to a politics of backward-looking hatred against other people when you can't provide food, shelter, conviviality to them.
And Biju Mathew, I'd like to ask you, in terms of, there's been the focus, and this is the possibly Muslim Pakistanis involved related to Kashmir, yet they targeted as well Americans, British, and Israelis who were in Mumbai. Your reaction to that, to hearing that they were targeting particular nationalities?
I think, the targeting of particular nationalities. See, what I choose to believe from the reports that I've heard is what comes out as eyewitness reports. That is, ordinary people. When I say ordinary people, it could be some rich folks sitting in the Taj, but people who've come out, posted things on blogs, etc. That's what I prefer to believe, right? I do not believe the state version of most of this, what's going on right now. For instance, even this one gunman who's supposedly been captured, I just want to add to what Tariq just said, which is to say, they claim he's singing like a bird suddenly, and he says he's from a town called, he's from a place called Faridkot in Pakistan. The Dawn, a Pakistani newspaper, just published a report wherein they identified 3 Faridkots in all of Pakistan, went around to all 3 Faridkots, tried to dig to find out whether there was any family with this person's name in there, and came back and said no. The point is that we don't know who's singing what, I can't even say for sure whether this guy who they claim is one of the gunmen is actually been somebody who was picked up from there. The Indian state has a terrible record in terms of who is picked up and who is produced for a crime, right? Now, coming to, so the reason why I do give some credence to the fact that there was actual targeting of British citizens, American citizens, I didn't hear the Israeli part, but it's very possible, is that we know that this group is a terror group which is coming out of a certain set of politics of Islam versus the West. A particular kind of Islamocentric politics. And so in that context, I can understand it because it's a perfectly positioned target. That area of Bombay, the downtown area, is the one that's quote unquote full of foreigners. And so it's a prime target, therefore, if one is looking for foreigners. But in the end, the foreigners don't matter because, it sends a particular message to the West, yes, but at the same time, we must realize that out of the 170 or 190 people dead, most of them are Indians, and the people in India are going to face the long-term consequences of this.
Can you explain who Sonal Shah is, Obama's pick for the transition team around technology innovation and government reform, global development initiatives?
Sonal Shah is a second-generation South Asian American, Indian American, who has just been picked by, as you said, by the Obama team as part of the transition team. There has been severe controversy in the United States around her choice of even being in the transition team. And the primary reason is because she has two different lives. One life is as a liberal, part of the whole Podesta establishment, etc., within the Democratic Party, and the other, which is still now unknown in the broader American public sphere, is that she has significant connections to the Hindu right wing, which Teesta, for instance, just referred to, etc.
She or her family?
She and her family. I'm not talking about her family yet, but I will come to that. She herself, there's documentary evidence that she served on the governing council of an organization called the Vishwa Hindu Parishad of America, which is the kind of the sister organization for the Hindu right-wing nationalist violent organization back in India. Here in the United States, from the period 1998 to 2001. She then went on to coordinate the national, became a national coordinator for the Vishwa Hindu Parishad of America for their earthquake relief operations in 2001. And we know that the funds generated from there were used in an extremely discriminatory fashion back in India, wherein villages being reconstructed after the earthquake were broken up into Hindu villages and Muslim villages, wherein earlier they were integrated villages, lower caste villages and upper caste villages, wherein earlier they were integrated villages. So she has had a record for a certain period of time that's very easily traceable.
She has issued a statement and said her, quote, personal politics have nothing in common with the views espoused by VHP, RSS, or any such organization, that she's always condemned any politics of division, of ethnic or religious hatred, of violence and intimidation as a political tool.
I mean, that may be true, but when she says something like, I mean, if that statement had been preceded by a line which said that I had participated in this organization, etc., 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 then one would say, okay, maybe there is a particular way in which we can read it, we can give this person a second chance, etc., etc. But to obfuscate the fact that she's had significant involvement with this group in the past immediately puts the needle of doubt back on again, especially because the first statement wasn't issued by her. The first statement was issued by her family, which came out and said that the family as a whole didn't ever have anything to do with this politics. I mean, in other words, the family, and she herself defended her family, coming out and saying that her family, again, has nothing to do with this politics, that they're only involved with religious and cultural organizations, whereas her father has been out on election campaigns for the Hindu right-wing party. I mean, when Modi, the butcher of Gujarat, came to the United States the last time, the time before he was denied a visa, he actually stayed with them, right? I mean, so that's the point. The point is very simply that, her statement is a good statement, but I think it's really important to note that even within that good statement, there's a fair amount of obfuscation going on.
We're going to have to leave it there. I want to thank you, Biju Mathew, a New York-based activist with a campaign to stop funding hate and with a coalition against genocide. I want to thank Tariq Ali for joining us from London, and also to Professor Vijay Prashad, Chair of South Asian History and Director of International Studies at Trinity College. Thanks also to Teesta Setalvad, who joined us from Delhi, was in Mumbai when the attacks took place. This is Democracy Now! When we come back, we go to Long Island in New York, where a Walmart employee was stampeded on Black Friday when the crowds came in to shop. Stay with us.